Hello, everybody. Welcome into SportsDay Insider, presented by the Dallas Morning News. I am Kevin Sherrington, joined by my pals Evan Grant and Calvin Watkins from Oxnard Training Camp. Calvin, how's the weather out there? What is the temperature?
It's beautiful. It's probably 64 degrees as we were talking, and I think since Sunday, and this is Tuesday, in the 3 days I've been here, I don't think the temperature has gone beyond 83, 84 degrees.
Calvin has already set a record.
What's that?
Well, our previous Cowboys correspondent, who will be unnamed, the first sentence of training camp every year, I believe, mentioned the words marine layer.
Oh. We had a marine layer yesterday.
Yeah. I don't even think it's 64 degrees in my refrigerator. That's unbelievable.
Is that the refrigerator you bought from me?
Yeah. Yes. And by the way, we're having to replace that piece of junk that you foisted upon us.
12 years later.
I think he was still looking for a warranty.
The technician who came out said he'd never seen a worse piece of junk in his entire life.
I believe the technician came out and said, it looks like somebody has poked holes in the freezer here. Is that what he said, Kevin?
That is what he said.
And who would poke holes in the freezer, Kevin?
That was me trying to break up the ice that had gathered in the bottom of the refrigerator. So, it's not real scientific how we did that. But, I may have been a little frustrated at the time,
Coming up next week on Dallas Morning News, Home Repair with Kevin and Evan.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right. Listen, Calvin, you've had already Jerry Jones is making noises and headlines, and which is he just couldn't, in his mind, do anything better than that, right? He doesn't want to sneak into training camp. No laying low for Jerry. Right out of the box, he's saying crazy stuff. So I know that we talked about this in the pre-show, that we were going to talk about Calvin's three big storylines going into camp, but I think we should go right to the heart of it now. We should talk about the news of the day, which is that Jerry said stuff that was perceived to be a shot at Micah Parsons, his star pass rusher, who is, of course, up for a new contract extension, and that is the story of the day. But of course, Jerry made it into much more than that. So Calvin, kind of break that down for us and what your thoughts were about it.
Well, wait, is it a shot or not, Calvin? First, interpret Jerry for us.
People interpret Jerry many different ways. I didn't think it was a shot. A lot of questions at this press conference on Monday was about Micah Parsons. And then some questions were about, did you make a mistake signing players too soon? And Jerry said, well, I signed a guy to the highest contract ever, and he gets hurt the year I give him that money. And then he goes, Micah Parsons lost 4 games of injury last year. So I think Jerry was just saying it's a risk, regardless of what you do, whether you pay a guy quicker or when he goes into a contract year. That's all he was saying. Now, J.J. Watt, who is T.J. Watt, J.J. Watt, who is the retired pass rusher, made a comment on X saying that, hey, I can't play for a guy like this because we're killing ourselves on the football field. And he's saying, he don't want to pay us and that kind of thing. I was listening to a podcast with Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharp. They were killing Jerry, saying, Jerry just doesn't care about the players like you think. Well, he cares about the players, but it's a risk. Dak Prescott was going to a contract year a couple of years ago. He fractures his ankle, right? And they still paid him. You know what I'm saying? It's just what sports is. You guys have covered sports a long time, longer than me. Anytime these guys go on the field, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, someone can get hurt. Anthony Davis, he gets hurt the first game with the Mavericks, right? It's just the business that we're in. And I think that's all Jerry was saying.
Kevin, was it a shot?
Oh, no, it's just Jerry. Like you said earlier, it's just Jerry's word salad. He's listen, we've known this since the days that Jerry first bought the team, when with his other coaches, and how the players would go over the coaches' heads and get to Jerry and talk to him to get what they wanted, right? Jerry's always been a player's GM / owner, whatever you want to call him. So no, I don't think he's taking a shot at him at all. So I think that, of course, I do want to point out though, when these guys have the long-term injuries, I think the insurance kicks in, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not sure that you guys have to explain that to me to make me understand that a little better about how the insurance works.
Well, baseball, I mean, you go ahead, Calvin.
No, yeah, there is insurance involved, so it's not like, Jerry's dying out here when Dak gets hurt. So there's there's an insurance premium that someone will pay if the injury is like career, ending. So it's not the end of the world per se.
Yeah.
Listen, two things can be true, right? That Jerry wasn't taking a shot at Dak or Micah Parsons, but at the same point in time, and it just feels, anytime you mention a player specifically, it then becomes personal. The easy way to do this is to basically say exactly what Calvin said. You sign, whether it's pitchers or whether it's linebackers or quarterbacks, you sign players to long-term contracts, you accept some degree of risk. There is risk involved. I don't understand why Jerry, with all the time that he's got, I guess I shouldn't even say it because we all know this, but why you would ever throw the players' names in there and use that example, it just does give people the ability to interpret it as, well, you're making this personal.
But there was one player he did rip yesterday. That was Trayvon Diggs, because the Cowboys took $500,000 from his $9 million base salary because Diggs did not work out 84% of the time in the offseason. And the Cowboys, specifically Jerry, said, I wanted Trayvon Diggs to be a leader. We expect him to be here. And he wasn't here, so we're going to take his money. So that was one. There was no misinterpretation there. He did rip Trayvon Diggs at the news conference on Monday.
Well, and probably rightfully so. I don't know if he needs to say that out loud. He needs to, if he needs to find him, he finds him, right? That's just, that's just part of the business. You don't need to say anything about that if you don't want to. But Jerry's lured into these things very easily. You ask him a couple of questions, and then if you poke him a little bit more, then there he goes, right? And so I don't think that there's anything in any of this that's going to cause anybody to say, I'm not playing for the Cowboys this year. No one's gonna do that, and everything's gonna get worked out, and then Jerry will make nice with them, and it'll be all good. So I don't think that's going to become an issue going forward. So let's talk about the three things that we want to talk about. So Calvin, your first thing, I think, is about Micah Parsons, right?
Yeah. First thing is Micah Parsons. It revolves around when you're going to pay him, right? Because the last 2 years we've had holdouts with Zach Martin and CeeDee Lamb. And then when they ended those holdouts, when they got into the regular season, they were a little rusty. And that's not me saying that. That's the players saying that themselves. So whenever they get this Parsons deal done, will he be rusty at the start of the year? And you know what? If you're going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, you better deliver. We don't want to hear anything more about, I got 8 sacks going into December. No, you better have double-digit sacks going into December. You have to be a dominant force. So to me, like Dak Prescott's the highest paid quarterback in the league, right? You only got 2 playoff wins. I mean, so if you want all this money, you got to deliver. So that's, to me, the first thing. The second thing is the rookie head coach.
Hold on. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sorry.
Hold on.
Sorry.
I think there's no question that a deal's going to get done, though, right? It's just
a question get it done.
Is it going to be like 5 minutes before the kickoff of the opener? Is it going to be when is it going to be? So do you think it'll happen like right before the opener? Will it happen at the end of training camp? What do you think?
I don't think it will happen this week. It's going to take a while. I think I'm here in Oxnard until the 15th of August. I'll be a little surprised if it's done by then.
Me too. There's no way. They'll know. Yeah. There's no way it'll be done.
Exhibit A. When did Dak's contract get done?
The morning of the first game of the season.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
See, that's it. So let's talk about that for just a second. Why is it that Jerry does it that way? I mean, what's the reasoning? Because he's always done it that way, right? It is up till the very last minute. What's the point of that?
I, I say Jerry Jones is a promoter. And I think we're just used to him being Jerry, right? But let's be honest, he's a promoter. He's like Bob Aaron. He's like Don King. He's like Eddie Hearn. He is one of these guys that the more you talk about my team, the better. I will only make a deal until I have to make the deal. Oh, the season starts September 4th, September 3rd. Let's give him his money.
Yeah.
And look at all the publicity we generated from, July 20th when we got here to California until September 4th, right? That's how he looks at it. They can get this deal done today. They can make a phone call to his agent right now and say, hey, how much do you want? And it'd be over with. But that's not how he does things.
Yeah. Great explanation. I love that, Calvin. That was good. All right. Topic number 2.
Well, I want to go back to one other thing on Jerry here. I'm sorry. Because I read the thing in Calvin's story this morning about Jerry doesn't talk to agents very much. And Will McClay does the draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does Jerry do as general manager?
Makes money.
No, I'm dead serious here. I mean, that was I came away from this and I'm like, wait a minute, what is the general manager's role if he doesn't negotiate contracts and doesn't draft the players?
He talks to the players directly and says, hey, how much do you want? And this is true. He's talked to Micah Parsons in the spring, and they had a great talk. And he wants to know, how much money do you want? I want this. Okay, cool. Micah says, call my agent. Okay. Nothing happens. He talked to Dak Prescott. Hey, how much do you want? I want this. Okay. Call my agent. All right, nothing happens. So that's what Jerry does. He's a facilitator. He's like a point guard. He just, and then when he pushes a button, things happen. Because Micah did say, when Jerry's ready to do the deal will get done.
Well, then he'll tell Steven to get the deal done, right?
Yes, there's Stephen Jones and another guy, Adam Pacifica, who is like the salary cap contract negotiator. Those two guys, they talk to the agents on a regular basis to get the deals done. Jerry doesn't talk to agents, apparently, as Stephen pointed out when he said he didn't talk to Todd France, who is Dak's agent. Todd France is probably one of the best agents in the business. And so you would think the general manager and the owner would have talked to Todd France, who is about to get his guy, Dak Prescott, one of the largest contracts in franchise history, right? But Jerry's like, I'll see you in week 4 or whatever. So he's good.
Well, Kevin, how often do you just get down on your knees and thank God for this material?
Well, listen, let me tell you something. I don't want Jerry doing any of that stuff. I just want Jerry sitting up at press conferences and saying stupid stuff so we can make fun of it and have a good time. That's all I want him to do. And after the games, that. Calvin and I had that whole thing going. Remember, Calvin, was that when Jason Garrett was about to get fired and you're in there, I'm in there, and you're in there? It's a post game, and we're trying to get Jerry. And
yeah,
you're writing notes to me about what Jerry, because I got there late because I was talking to somebody else, and you're writing a note to me while Jerry's talking like 2 feet from us, and you're writing notes and showing them to me about what he's just said. I think about Jason Garrett he was probably gonna fire him or something like that. And Jerry's looking at us, writing notes back and forth to each other. It's good stuff, it's great theater. I know some fans get mad about it, but I don't care. It's just unbelievable. You're right. It is the greatest thing that ever happened. People ask me all the time, do you really hate Jerry Jones? It's like, no, I love the guy. He's been a source of more punchlines for me than any single character in this market. So, all right. On to topic number 2.
Number 2, the rookie head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. Anytime you have a first-time head coach, there's going to be some issues, regardless of how many years he was assistant coach, regardless of who his dad was or anything like that. Rookie head coaches do have some issues from time to time, whether it's from game management, whether it's dealing with us in the media, whether it's handling players. There's going to be some sort of issues that are going to happen. Dan Campbell gets so much praise for what he's done in Detroit. Everyone forgets that rookie season where I think they went 0-16, right? So rookie head coaches have problems. Marty Schottenheimer, who is Brian Schottenheimer's dad, who went over 200 games in the NFL, helped his son, be a coach and all those kinds of things, but it's still not the same when you have to be on that sideline with the headset and you got to make these decisions. So that's an issue that they're going to have to overcome at some point.
What do you think about his ability to do that? I mean, does he seem like the kind of guy? Does he seem like he's a really organized guy who's very got a lot of attention to detail and understands all the things that need to be taken care of?
I think so. One of the things that I kind of liked hearing from him at the opening press conference was they asked him, "What's the theme of the season?" Right? He goes, "We have no theme. It's time to play football." And I like that because Mike McCarthy, the guy who he replaced, had a theme every year. Jason Garrett had a theme every year, put signs up on the walls at the start, all this kind of stuff, all this motivational. Brian Schottenheimer said, "Look, I did a crabfish boil. I got a ping pong table in the locker room. You can shoot baskets in my office. You can putt in my office, the whole deal. I'll go to your charity events. September 4th, let's go to work because all that stuff doesn't mean anything if you go 0-2 to start the season, right?" So I think he's got it. Now, whether or not it will work or not remains to be seen.
Okay. Second question about him as a head coach, because we don't know about him, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just, as you said, we just know about him as an
Mm-hmm.
assistant coach, and those are two completely different things, right? The assistant coach can be the guy that can be like a father figure to these guys sometimes if he has to, or he can kick them in the butt if he has to. He can do all those kind of things. The head coach is always distant. The head coach is a CEO. He's a coordinator here. These other people report to me, and I am no longer your daddy. I am now the person up here who is trying to keep everything afloat. I have to look at lots of different things anymore. I've known coaches who couldn't make that leap from assistant coach to head coach. We found out that they just weren't cut out for it. David McWilliams at Texas, he loved being an assistant coach, hated being a head coach. He loved the connection with the players as an assistant, but he didn't like all the things that went with being a head coach. So is there something in him that tells you, or from what we've seen so far, that he can do that job that's completely different from the one he's done up to now?
No, I mean, I'm being honest because, he's been an assistant coach for a long time, right? He's coached in Seattle. He's coached Russell Wilson. He's been in New York with Rex, with the Jets. He's seen that madness with Mark Sanchez. So he's been around a little bit. He was in Jacksonville, Urban. So he knows his dad. So he knows a lot of football. But I'm with you. I really don't know until we get to Philly week 1, and he's going to be against Nick Sirianni and the Eagles, and we'll find out. But I think he's well prepared, as they all are, right? And he is a relationship builder. He likes to build relationships. He wants to be close to the players and that kind of thing. I was talking to Miles Sanders, who the Cowboys signed in free agency this offseason, and I was talking to him about Brian Schottenheimer's tattoos. And Miles Sanders said, "Hey, I know a little bit about his tattoos, but I really like Shotty because he was honest with me." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I'm not going to get to specifics, but man to man, he said, this is my role for you." And he was upfront about it. He said, I assume he's telling Miles Sanders, "You're going to be the number 2 guy, right? You're not going to be the starter. That's going to be Javonte Williams or somebody else." And I think Miles Sanders liked that. So, and I believe Shotty learned that from his dad. Be upfront with these players, because if not, you lose the locker room. However, we'll find out in Philly on Thursday night when the Eagles get their fabulous Super Bowl rings if all this is going to work.
The Super Bowl ring's going to have little wings that come out.
Wings, yeah.
You see that?
Like that.
Like, what is that? Something like you activate that after you put it on, you pop it, and the little wings come out?
This has been the trend in championship rings. The Rangers World Series ring has a pop top.
No, I didn't even know that. Is that right?
You pop it up and it shows the map of the United States with all the places they won road games.
Didn't they go undefeated on the road or something?
Yeah. And then they beat the Rays, the Orioles, Arizona, and or the Astros and the Diamondbacks. So it was road. So that was the thing. Yes, but the Phillies thing makes it look like something the Phillies. The Eagles thing makes it look like something out of like a James Bond movie. Yeah.
You take this off and it like slices through things,
Like he activates the ring and he can fly or something.
Yeah, something crazy. This is nice.
Since we brought up the subject of Brian Schottenheimer's tattoos, I cannot let this go. I don't know why this bothers me so much, but Calvin, you wrote a fine story. What I'm stuck on is that Brian Schottenheimer had a Hebrew word tattooed on his arm in English, but to look like Hebrew. I do not get that.
I don't get it neither. But that's what. But you go to these tattoo parlors late at night. These guys have been smoking, drinking. Hey, you don't know what you might get.
So you're saying he was high when he got this? That's good.
I think he's saying the tattoo artist was high.
Oh.
I don't think he's saying Schottenheimer was high.
Well, he had to have been high to get that. I'm telling you, I'd be high to get that. I have to tell you, it's not.
But anyway, the meaning is all great and everything. I just don't quite get the thought process of I want this word that's in Hebrew, but I want it English, but I want it to look like Hebrew. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'd love to ask him that question. I'll never get that chance. But let's move on to what's next.
One quick thing before I hate to hijack this thing a little bit, but I'm really kind of fascinated by this.
You love hijacking this
thing.
Sure.
That's my job to hijack it. It is the Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders thing, the decision-making process on the the hierarchy of the running back room, right? Mm-hmm. Is that so they draft Jadon Blue from Texas in the 5th round, and then Phil Maffa, I guess was he the 6th or the 7th?
Six, something like that. Yeah.
And I was more excited about the Maffa draft than the Blue because Blue's the guy didn't even start at Texas, so. Holy cow, what do you want him to do here? But anyway, but Moffa's a big guy, 235 pounds. That's to me the thing. If your offensive line's a little bit questionable, you can get yourself a big banger in there who can make a hole of his own if he has to in a short yardage situation. But apparently they're really sold on Javonte Williams, and I want to know why is it that they're so sold on him that yes, he's going to be the lead quarterback, the lead running back.
They believe that before he got injured, because he had a torn ACL and then he had a foot issue, that he's probably one of the top 15 running backs in the league. That's how they're looking at it. So, and they signed him first, and they believe he's going to be the starter. But then it was interesting that Brian Schottenheimer kind of alluded we might have a running back by committee, right? So maybe he saw something in the OTAs that he didn't like. But they like Williams because he has started before, and he's a bigger guy than Miles Sanders is, and he's got more experience at being the lead back. So that's probably why he's in the lead right now in terms of the running back room. And Miles Sanders and your boy from Texas are going to back him up. The kid from Texas, he had like 5 fumbles last year, I think. So that worries me a little bit. Hate to be like a draft guy, but I don't know if his hands are big enough to hold on to the football. Or I don't know what's going on. He says the technique thing and those kinds of things. And it is interesting that they drafted this kid in the middle rounds and people are talking about he could start. He's so fast. And it's like, well, the NFL is different from college. So we'll see.
Yeah. He scored 2 touchdowns in the semifinal game against Ohio State, but they were both on passes. I mean, that seems to me to be the thing. He had 4 carries in that game. So that seems to be the thing to me is that if you're going to use him, apparently that's what you're going to use him for, at least initially, right? Is coming out of the backfield and doing that kind of thing. So,
I'll just remind you that Texas last year chose to pass an awful lot more than they chose to run, and I think it cost them a couple of football games along the way. Thank you very much.
Wisner was a good running back once they finally settled on him.
Wisner was, but I still that's a subject for another day. But you and I had discussions about this that Texas could have run the ball more successfully.
They didn't run the ball. You're right. Okay,
Maffa was a 7th round pick, so I don't even know if he's going to be on the roster come September. He might be on the practice squad by the time it's all done.
I'm telling you, I just completely misread that entire thing. But I'm still just a little befuddled by it. I mean, did you get an idea watching him in OTAs, meaning Williams, that he looks like he's healthy, everything's back, he got his burst back, all of that?
Yeah, Williams said he feels really good. It was interesting, but he did say, okay, say you tear your ACL in 2023, right?
Yeah.
He said, when you come back in 2024, you're not the same guy.
Right.
You're healthy enough to play. The doctors cleared you and all those things, but your body's not right until the following year, which is now 2025. So he's of the belief, and other players have talked about this when they have recovered from ACL injuries or any other type of ligament surgery, that it might take 2 years before you're back to what you were prior to the injury. So this is the year that Williams is supposed to be, um, an elite or an alleged elite running back for the Cowboys. So we'll see.
Obviously, the Broncos didn't think that.
No, Sean Payton doesn't care. He's like, deuces.
Hey, quick clarification here.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very
sir.
quick. Kevin, is this your top 3 stories or is it Calvin's?
Okay. I told you I'd get the hijack. That's my prerogative. Okay. All right. Number three on Calvin's list of storylines going into training camp.
Dak Prescott. Number 4 is coming off a torn.
Number 3 is number 4.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Dak Prescott tore his hamstring last year. And let's be honest, his massive contract where he's averaging $60 million a year, it kicks in now. And this man only has 2 playoff wins, no conference championship game appearances, and it's time for him to deliver. And so I don't know, and I've watched Dak for a number of years now. I don't know if he can elevate players on the field. He's a great leader, right? But now let's forget about the leadership stuff. Now it's about, can you elevate this team, take them to the next level? I don't know if he can. And the Cowboys are kind of stuck with this contract. You know what I'm saying? They can't get out of it. So Dak, you got to step up. A lot of quarterbacks across the league have been taking criticism. Lamar Jackson only has 1 more playoff win than Dak. He's been getting criticized because, hey, and you want more money, but we can't even get the Super Bowl with you. Josh Allen's 0-2 against Pat Mahomes. So it is hard to win. I think we can all agree on that. But when you have that amount of money, which Jerry Jones keeps talking about, every time, we get to him, he says, hey, I'm paying Dak Prescott more than anybody at that position in the history of the league. He's expecting some results. So Dak Prescott, you're on the clock, probably more so than ever before.
Calvin, before Kevin hijacks us again, I do want to say this. Like, I don't know that I've got any issue with your 3 storylines.
Mm-hmm.
You're questioning the storylines now?
No, but what
can we
hits
talk
me
about
here,
Dak?
What hits me here is that Dak Prescott is number 3. An aging quarterback coming back from injury for almost any team would be number 1, and that it's number 3 on this list, and probably rightfully so. To me, tells me that this team has a significant number of big questions going in. I mean, I think that's very obvious, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, you know how when and you don't have to do this because you guys play 162 games, but as you know, when the schedule comes out in the NFL, we have to predict the games, right? And I looked at the schedule and I said, these guys can win no more than 9 games, right? And that's with Dak Prescott, and then Micah Parsons is going to get paid. CeeDee Lamb's one of the top 5 highest paid players at his position. They got Tyler Smith, who is going to get a big money contract at guard next year. They have all this money invested into all these players, and I don't think they can win more than 9 or 10 games. And I understand why Jerry Jones is the way he is, because he's like, I'm giving these people the money. Well, I'm giving them what they want, and I get criticized for being a GM that's not really a GM. I get criticized from a word salad, and I'm paying people, and then I'm not getting anything in return. So, and I understand what you're saying, but it's just Dak is you're stuck with Dak. You know what I'm saying? Football, as you guys know, is one of those hard sports to cut somebody without some serious repercussions to it. So that's why he's number 3. Because
Kevin, what does that say to you? Because those are significant questions about Dak, right? And there's no issue with where these rankings are, but it just again reinforces to me how much of an issue there is with this entire team.
Well, can we get to Dak?
Yes, go ahead.
Wow, holy cow! So I don't disagree with anything you said about Dak, Calvin. I have over the years defended Dak and said, that he's a good player. When you put him around, he's a good quarterback, and he is obviously a very good leader.
Mm-hmm.
Just the kind of guy you want as a quarterback. Roger Staubach has said that. Troy Aikman has said that. Everybody agrees about all that. And of course, it's just the execution. Even when he's had a great season, and even when he's thrown for over 4,000 yards, as you noted, he's only won 2 games in the playoffs. Sometimes, I think we we put too much of that on the shoulders of the quarterback, obviously. But the problem is that, especially in the last couple of times they made the playoffs, Dak was one of the problems once they got in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 interceptions. And last time,
Yes, and going down there and trying to get off the final play and not knowing the clock and all of that. Terrible. I mean, it just, to me, it's for everybody, all the Dak haters out there, that just summed him up to them. Was that it's I sometimes I find myself feeling sorry for the guy. It's like I don't know if this is ever going to work out for him as a quarterback in this town. I think he's good enough to win a Super. People will always ask that: is he good enough to win a Super Bowl? Sure, he is. Look who's won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, and he's 10 times the quarterback Trent Dilfer was. So if everything breaks right, the team plays well, they get something out of their running game, they get a good pass rush, the secondary, perks up, all that. But these are all to the point that Evan was making, that yes, there are a lot of other issues on this team. And if Dak is not the guy, as Calvin says, who can elevate a team all by himself, well, then this team's going to struggle to win, double-digit wins.
Well, Dak is, Calvin's point was great, right? That he's a great leader, but he doesn't have the ability any longer to elevate players, to make players better on the field with his own execution. And that player can go to a Super Bowl, can win a Super Bowl, but we talk about the great quarterbacks leading their teams to Super Bowls with their execution. And I think Dak has kind of moved past that point. I guess where I'm stuck right now on what you just said, Kevin, is, quarterbacks in this town are judged on whether or not they won a Super Bowl. And so Troy and Roger are on a different level. I feel like Tony Romo is still revered in this town. He didn't win a Super Bowl. He didn't go to an NFC championship game. What's the difference between Romo and Dak?
About $30 million, I think. So, look, Romo took the same grief, and deservedly so. They were two different kind of guys, right? Tony Romo was not the leader that Dak Prescott is. And I was told that, when Tony got hurt, remember, and that gave Dak his chance to play. And then when Tony was ready to go, they just basically said, no, we're going to stick with Dak. And here was the thing. There was not one peep out of the locker room about it.
Right.
Nobody in the locker room said, hey, that's not right. He's our starter. Tony's our guy. Nobody said that. So they're different. Tony was wildly talented as a passer and an ability to do things, and too much of a gunslinger. And that's, in the end, it's always what bit him in the butt. Dak is if you could combine those two guys, then maybe you would have had a Super Bowl quarterback of those two. I don't know. I think I'd rather have Dak as my quarterback than Tony Romo. And that's nothing against Romo. He was really good. I remember asking Babe Laufenberg and Brad Sham that one time. I was polling them on, the greatest quarterbacks Cowboys history, how do you rank them? And they had Staubach, Aikman, and then, it gets a little mushy there. But they had, Dak up there in their top four. So that's pretty good, right? If you're with one of the four best quarterbacks in franchise history, that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. You look around the rest of the league, as Sean McFarland said on our podcast last week, there's a lot of bad quarterbacks out there. Now, the deal is they're not making $60 million, So that's the issue with everybody. Everybody wants to know, Jerry wants, and fans can't get past, look how much this guy's making. It's like, well, first of all, you're not paying him, so it's okay. But secondly, that's
Jerry
just
had a choice. He had a choice.
You sure he did, and that's just the market, right? That's how the market works. This guy's here. They get paid. When it's just a matter of timing. We all know that, right? It's just that people get paid. I don't want to hear this stuff about, look at, Babe Ruth didn't make that much money. It's like, look, it's just all a matter of when you're getting paid, right? And that's, in the end, that's what the problem is.
But if Jerry had negotiated that contract earlier,
yeah,
right?
Sure. If he
would have saved money. It's the
absolutely.
same thing with Nathan Eovaldi. The Rangers are paying $25 million for him, and he's worth every penny of it this year. But if they had offered him the extension in August last year, they'd have gotten him for $20 million a year. So it's not the player's fault.
No, gosh, they're going to just get what they can get, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody blames the players for getting paid. I mean,
well, they do. A lot of people, I think a lot of people do blame them for what they're getting paid. It's just, once they find out how much you're making, it's like, what? You're not worth that.
Well, fans interpret it this way, right? That the players get paid and it's costing them because ticket prices go up and merch goes up and concessions go up. So it's coming out of their pocket. And so they feel some level of jealousy and some bitterness over that. And it's part of being a fanatic.
I think it's part of it, but I think also it's like they look at what's this other quarterback making. He's making less than this guy is. There's no way you're as good as, that guy's a lot better than you, and you're making more money.
That's basic misunderstanding of the economy.
Well, absolutely it is. And you just can't look at it that way. I mean, I try not to feel bad about the fact that Evan makes so much more money than I make.
See, you just because you had the microphone, you beat me to that line. Okay. Also, it's inaccurate. And, I do say to the bosses all the time, I do so much more work than Kevin. Why is he making more money than me?
Well, that's true. You do a lot more work than I am, but that's what I am. As Steve Rich said to me one time, a long time ago, you're kind of like the luxury liner here, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. I am a luxury liner. I'm just
Calvin, aren't you happy you spent a half an hour just dealing with this nonsense today?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. It's good to see you guys. Always a pleasure.
Calvin, it's great. Listen, one quick thing then. So your prediction is 9 wins.
For right
That's
now,
his best.
Yeah.
That's his best case scenario. Is that your realistic scenario?
Yeah, I do have to do. Our bosses, they make us do these predictions twice. So I did the first one in the spring when the schedule came out. Then I have to do it again in the fall, which is a good thing because I might give them an extra win, but we'll see. The back end of their schedule, the Cowboys schedule, is very daunting, and so I don't know if they can survive it. Christmas Day,
they have everything to do
all
with
those things. So,
how healthy they are, right? I mean,
that's the other thing too. Everything. Yeah, Trayvon Diggs, he's coming back from knee surgery again. Siobhan Revel, 3rd-round pick, he's coming off knee surgery. So Tyler Guyton, the left tackle, he was terrible last year. So he's a 1st-round pick. We'll see what he could do in his second year. As you guys said, a lot of issues with this football team with the rookie head coach and the owner / GM who's a promoter, Dak and his money. So
it's almost like you're saying the Cowboys are a circus, Calvin.
There they are. I think me and you should switch beats for like a week and let's see.
I don't want that circus.
I don't think he does either.
One last football question, 10 seconds, very quickly. Give me one name that I should be paying attention to in training camp who may have a surprising impact on this team going forward. Who's your pick to click?
DaRon Bland, because he's entering a contract year and he led the league interceptions a couple of years ago. So DaRon Bland.
DaRon Bland. That's my guy.
Pick to click. Did you really say that?
I did.
Wow. Okay. All right, Calvin. Listen, we appreciate you coming on board with us. We'd love to have you back more often. Okay.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
In about 2 weeks. We'll be right back to the Cowboys in about 2 weeks.
Yeah. Micah won't be signed.
See you, man.
See you guys. Thanks.
All right, there goes Calvin. We're going to talk about the Rangers now, which Evan, this is I feel like sometimes it's like the Frankenstein monster. It is alive. I mean, are the Rangers alive or not? I mean, they come out of the All-Star break, take 2 out of 3 from the Tigers, could have swept the Tigers. There was a potential for that. Didn't score a lot of runs, but when you run into Scooble, that kind of is a problematic thing. And the Tigers were slumping, but still, they got the best record in the league. Those are all things that suggest, and then they come out and win on Monday night against the A's. And so that the team still got something going on here. I mean, what do you think?
Look,
is there a pulse?
The goal was to get back to 500 by the All-Star break, and they basically got there and then got over the hump and won 2 out of 3 against a playoff caliber team. They've got a week of games against teams below 500. It's a chance to genuinely get hot. I don't know what to make of this team. It's still just like there's no answers here for me that show me any great stretch of contending baseball, other than the fact that the starting pitching has been great. They did lose to Skubal on Sunday, and that's kind of to be expected. They're playing the best pitcher in the American League. But here's the deal: so much of this season is built on, well, if we can just get to the playoffs, we've got DeGrom and Evaldi going, blah 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 blah. But they're going to face pitchers like Skubal in the playoffs. They're going to face the top tier pitchers in the playoffs, and this team has no shot against those pitchers. They are 5-17 against the top third of pitchers in Major League Baseball, and you're going to lose more games than you win against those teams. But the Rangers have a 230 winning percentage. Those guys win 60% of their teams win 60% of their starts. So something doesn't add up there. You go back into this, and I will say this: I did look this up this morning. The Rangers are not good against left-handers, right? They have the fewest wins in the league against left-handers. They went to the well and called Josh Young back up, even though I'm not sure they thought he was ready, because they just needed some experienced right-handed bats. The one good thing is I don't think they will face a ton of lefties the rest of the way. This is kind of a heavy left-handed week, and but the playoff teams in the American League don't have a ton of lefties. I don't know that they'll face a ton of lefties the rest of the way. So that may be an issue that doesn't need to be all that teeth gnashed about. But I'm just yet to be sold on the offense. And that's the one question we've had from the second week of the season on. I don't know what to say about it.
Well, you said a lot for not knowing what to say. I will say this. Yeah, everything you said is right, of course. And that will be an issue going forward. But we also know, essentially, you just got to get to the playoffs, right? They went 11-0 on the road when they won in 2023.
Yep.
What were the chances of that happening?
And they were not a good road team that year. So,
no,
I mean,
zip. Stuff happens in the playoffs,
correct.
You never know. So you just got to get there. That's the issue. I think, they had the little back flare up with Evaldi. Apparently he's okay now, right? And we'll be able to start. Do you think there was a little skullduggery going there that maybe they're just taking him out because what the heck? It's Skubal. We've taken 2 games in this series. Let's take Nathan out and let him cut down on his innings a little bit here.
No, I don't think so. I think that they don't have the ability for skullduggery right now. They need to win every game that they can.
Yeah.
And you wanted one of your best pitchers facing the A's.
And Jake Latz did a great job.
Or the Tigers. Yeah, Jake Latz did a great job. And you're right, Kevin. Get to the playoffs, right? That's the most important thing. I'm still judging a lot of this based on what Chris Young's expectations for this club were at the beginning of the year, in which he's doubled down on, which are, we're here to win championships. We're here to win the division. We're not here to chase a wild card. We would take a wild card if that's what we end up with, but we're here to win a championship. And I just don't. I don't know if this is a championship caliber club. Every data point that I see, with the exception of, and this is a big data point, and that's why I keep coming back to it. Every data point that I see suggests they're not a championship caliber club, except for the fact that they have this great starting pitching, the best starting pitching the Rangers have ever had. Period.
Yes, it is.
And they're, the best. So that's a pretty big data point to have in your favor. If they can get hot for a stretch here, who knows? Just who knows? I feel so stupid saying this over and over again, but it's just where we're at,
It is. I'm interested in watching what happens here with all this, traffic between Round Rock and Arlington over the last couple of weeks here, and the guys who are getting in lineups now. Michael Hellman is out there, and
hitting home runs.
yeah. And then you get, and then what's his name? I've forgotten the other kid's name who got his first base hit. It was a double in knocked
Cody
in a run.
Freeman.
Cody Freeman. So Cody Freeman, in that pitch, what did he do? Pitches outside. He goes to right field with it. Got a runner on second base, and he scores the runner. So it's kind of like, this is what we've kind of been asking of the regular lineup, right? All along is just do what you have to do to get that run across. It is a frustrating team to watch. I made note of this in my newsletter the other day. Adolis Garcia, goes out there and in one game throws home when he shouldn't have thrown home and allows the runner to go to second. And in that same game, standing on second base, a soft single to center, and he just stands and watches it fly past him before he trots into third base, instead of knowing where the shortstop was on that play and be running at contact and scoring. And of course, he ended up scoring anyway on a wild pitch, but that's beside the point. It's like, these are fundamentals of baseball. And if you're a struggling team, you've got to be, and that's the problem, right? Adolis grew up on a Rangers team where that wasn't an issue. We just bash, right?
Right.
And that's how we win games. We don't win games by observing the fundamentals.
Well,
and
there have been
that's part of the problem.
There have been any number of times this year where I've seen him get reads in the outfield that are just tremendous, where he's turned balls that were sure hits into outs, and in some cases double plays because of his reads and his first step. So he's got instincts. Now, does he have instincts on the base pass? Maybe not. Or does he lose focus sometimes? Maybe not. You and I have gone back and forth on some of the base running things, and for me, they're always kind of decisions that could go either way. On Sunday, I thought, that single is, there was some question whether or not that was going to get through the infield. It was hit so softly. But yeah, he didn't know where the shortstop was positioned, and that would have given him a better jump. It was still such a shallow hit. I'm not sure if he scores, but to your point, you'd like to see, this is the thing that keeps coming back when the Rangers don't win these games, is you'd like to see that thing that indicates urgency, that indicates they are looking for the killer instinct, that they are looking for opportunities, not running blind and not being, station to station, but looking for opportunities to capitalize. I had bigger problems in the first inning. Seager doubles in the first inning off of Skubal, and they don't advance him. Simeon strikes out, Garcia strikes out. There goes an opportunity to put a run on the board against an ace right away. And then I had another problem. Corey went 2 for 3 against Skubal, but I had a problem in the ninth inning. They finally get Skubal out of the game. They've got Will Vest in there, and he's coming back for the ninth after finishing the eighth. Corey swings at the first pitch, which is down and away and on the very bottom of the strike zone. I know he's an aggressive hitter, but if you're going to be aggressive, you've got to be aggressive on good pitches. And I didn't really like that very much. I just got to say it.
Well, I think there was right there where you're talking about. He went through 3 hitters on 5 pitches, I think. And that's kind of what they do. And I'm with you. And we've talked about this before. Corey's got a little bit of Josh Hamilton in him. That first pitch, he loves to swing at it. And I don't know why anybody would throw him a hittable pitch on the first pitch. I mean, they're not going to throw him very many hittable pitches at all, but especially not on the first pitch because he's always swinging at it. He's coming up there hacking, throwing him something off the plate. I mean,
and Friday or Saturday, they had, I forget who the pitcher was that was on the mound, but they had tried to pitch around him. They got the 3-1, and I'm like, well, they're not going to throw a strike here. There's no way they're going to throw a strike here. And guy makes a mistake down the middle because, of course, they should have just said, go to first base. At 3-1, when it was clear he wasn't going to swing at those, they should have just said, go to first base. I hate when managers in key situations just try to pitch around a guy. If you got a base open, let the guy go to first base. But, Corey made him pay by hitting a mistake. But they're not going to throw him a strike intentionally.
No, they're not. So I guess my question for you, Evan, is that how is this all going to sort out here with all of these players coming and going? I mean, ultimately, what is the lineup going to be? I guess, I guess it's still going to be when Jake Berger gets healthy, he'll come back and play first base. Is Jock Peterson ever coming back?
Well, he's going to start taking some BP this week, and sometime in August he may be ready. But that injury cost Josh Young 4 months last season. I don't anticipate it's going to cost Jock Peterson any less. And I do think that like what the weekend showed, and particularly against Scooball, and maybe even some of the moves were emotional on Monday. But look, I got to tell you, Ezekiel Duran is just not doing it when he's given the opportunity against left-handers. Justin Foscue has not taken advantage of any glimmer of an opportunity that he was given, and the Rangers felt like they needed some more right-handed bats against lefties that that thought they had a chance. And if you notice, the Rangers didn't play Josh Smith against Scooball, so they didn't go with the left-on-left thing. I think what you're going to see is Josh Young playing third base against lefties. I'm not so sure he's going to play every day. I think that may change. I think Josh Smith is going to be your everyday third baseman against most right-handed pitchers. And when Jock Peterson gets back, maybe you have. Boy, I don't know. I mean, there's still a lot of lefties. You have Peterson, you have Rowdy Tellez. You don't have you'd have Berger back, so Tellez could sit against the lefties. But I do think you're looking at much more of a platoon situation at first and third base, is what my word salad was leading to.
Yeah, it's a mess. All right, so
I got so caught up in all the moves that I couldn't sort it all out. It was
I know. So a couple quick things here. So Chris Martin out for like 9 years after a calf strain in that game. He's not only is he out, which is damaging, he's off the trade market now. If they were interested in trading him, so both of those things are now out.
I will also say this though, Kevin, he had some incentives in his contract that he was going to be making that would have been, in the range. I think there was I don't have the numbers in front of me right this minute, but let's just say in the $300,000 to $500,000 makeable range. And he's not going to reach those thresholds now. And those are pennies. But right now, this team is trying to scrap together as many pennies as they can to be able to add $2.5 million worth of salary in terms of adding a closer, adding a reliever. And so that is not insignificant in that regard. They're going to stay under the salary threshold, the salary tax threshold, but in trading Dunning and saving about $600,000 there, in losing Martin for a while, they'll save a little bit of money there. And they had about $1.7 million, $1.75 million still under the threshold going in. So there's some ability to add a closer. And if you look at most of those closers on the market, the guys that you like David Bednar and I also like Felix Bautista. You're not talking about a ton of money. The one case for a rental who would cost a lot of money, but I think there's an ability, and this week will be interesting to wash things out, is you've got Raisel Iglesias with the Braves, who's making $16 million this year, has about $6 million left. It's the exact same amount of money that Tyler Mahle is making this year. So maybe there's a way, if the Rangers wanted to make a deal, to wash those two contracts. Obviously, the Rangers would have to give Atlanta a legitimate prospect in return, but maybe that's a way to make that money wash and make Iglesias affordable as well.
Okay. All right, that's going to do it for the Rangers segment of our podcast. We need to move over to the ever popular potpourri, which is
who is the potpourri popular with?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I walk down the street and people are screaming at me, potpourri, we want more potpourri.
You sure they're not saying your column reads like poo to me?
Yeah, that was really good. You worked hard on that one. That was good. Anyway.
We're going to lunch today, and I'm going to ask whoever's waiting on us, do you listen to the podcast for the potpourri?
And they'll say, you guys have a podcast? Anyway, Scottie Scheffler, Highland Park Zone. won the British Open. It gives him 4 majors, and he's 3/4 of the way to the career Grand Slam. I think this is really interesting, and I'd like to know, get a clarification on it. If at the U.S. Open, which is the one leg that he lacks on that, if he wins the British Open at Shinnecock, Sunday is his 30th birthday. So does that count as winning the Grand Slam before you're 30 or not?
First of all, you just referred to the British Open again instead of the U.S. Open, so you
U.S.
threw me
Open.
for
I'm sorry.
you
Yeah.
threw me for a little bit of a loop.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I
U.S.
think
Open.
if he wins it this year on his 30th birthday,
Next year on his 30th birthday.
Next year on his 30th birthday. I'm sorry, we've already played the U.S. Open this year.
Yeah.
If he does that next year on his 30th birthday, I think the PGA will give him an exemption and say officially he counted as he started the tournament before he was 30.
He gets the Roger Maris asterisk, if you ask me.
Correct.
That's what it is. Okay. A great win for Scottie. Just blew everybody away. You know, there's a feeling out there that there's nobody on the PGA Tour that can beat him right now, and that the people who can beat him are on the Live Golf Tour. You know, Brooks Koepka, you know, John Rahm, and certainly, and Bryson DeChambeau. Certainly, those guys are all guys that could do that on any given day. But it is an amazing thing to watch how his Scottie's career has evolved. And of course, he made, you know, news last week when he said before the British Open in the press conference and was asked about his motivations. And he talked about how, you know, how driven he is to win, how much he wants to win and loves to win. And, you know, he's always done that since he was a little kid, since he was 3 or 4 years old and first picked up a golf club. He's always wanted to win. But he also asked himself, what is the point? Because I get about 2 minutes enjoyment out of this. And then, you know, the most important things to me are my faith, family, and friends. And so, and then golf comes in, you know, third or fourth. So, you know, it was a remarkable thing to say, especially coming from a guy who says nothing. You know, Scottie goes to the press conferences and he's not, you know, terribly introspective at most of them and doesn't say a lot. He's not a particularly funny guy. He's certainly a likable guy, an amiable guy, but a little bit like Freddie Couples was when he won the Masters, and we all asked him about what it meant, and he just didn't really have anything to say about it. And even when he was asked about winning the Open immediately afterwards, he just kept saying it's pretty cool. You know,
this, I would contend that in a lot of ways, this is what makes great athletes maximize their greatness is not, and everybody's different, right? I mean, Michael Jordan was caught up in being Michael Jordan. I mean, his identity was Michael Jordan. But I think that athletes who also can say, I golf, but I am not Scottie Scheffler. That's not my persona. I'm not the golfer. I am a father. I am a husband. I am a friend. I do think that allows them to not wear the mantle so heavily.
I don't think there's very many of those guys, though. That's the thing.
There aren't. No, I mean,
and that's the you know, that's what I loved what Jordan Spieth said about him afterwards, and you have to consider the perspective on Jordan Spieth. He's a couple years older than Scottie, I think 3 years older, and growing up, Jordan was the Jordan Spieth was the Michael Jordan of golf as a junior golfer. I mean, he was a star, and he whenever he played Scottie, he beat him. You know, it's like Scottie and Will Zalatoris were contemporaries, and they talked about the fact that you just couldn't beat him. He said that Jordan beat us every way possible. He would be in an impossible situation, and Jordan would make it an impossible shot and beat us. And Jordan has talked about this. He said, I used to dominate him, and now he dominates me. And you have to think how hard that is for Jordan Spieth to say that. And that's what he said. That is really hard for me to admit that. But what he also said about Scottie Scheffler afterwards is that he's unlike anybody else. He said, I can tell you right now, when he's finished playing, he'll never come back out here. That's it. He's not going to, he doesn't care about doing the corporate things that all the rest of us do and all the things that we chase. Now, we've heard, obviously, that coming back from the British Open, that he did stop and did the Tonight Show. And he did, see, what else did he do? There was something else that was on his agenda.
He went to the Happy Gilmore
He-
premiere.
Yes. And so it's not like he's a hermit. I mean, he's not, hiding or doing anything like that. He just doesn't chase these things. They're just not really important to him. And I think that probably in some ways, and this is just who Scottie is, right? His wife, Meredith, talked about when she came back and moved back to Highland Park. She had known him before. And when the very first class she sat down in, he was in there. She sat down next to him on purpose because she remembered him and how down to earth he was. Wasn't a kid who put on a lot of airs. And so this is who Scottie is, and I think he feels like this helps me play the way that I do. It's not that he's doing it because so he'll play better, but it is kind of like a benefit of it is that I remember when you had other golfers in over the course of the last 20, 30 years who've risen up and been really good. And but they got so many things going on. They're flying in helicopters and they're making so much money. You wonder about the motivation. Well, with Scottie, it's just always been, he loves to win. Now he questions that, like, is that a good thing that I'm so driven to win? And my point is that, yeah, it's perfectly fine to be driven to win.
I think that I guess that's the thing that to me is so admirable about it is you recognize that you are driven to win. You recognize that you have other priorities that don't identify you simply as a golfer, but as a person. And you ask yourself, is winning the most important thing? That you check yourself, that you have, I guess, self-awareness is so important for great athletes. And I don't think a lot of them ever acknowledge it. And to hear a guy acknowledge it, like this is the same thing that Jake Berger told me. And I'm not putting Jake Berger by any stretch of the imagination in the same boat as Scottie Scheffler. But when we talked this spring and we were talking about dealing with, having a baby born with Down syndrome, and we talked about all the stuff he went through with a torn Achilles twice, the thing that motivated him was, or not motivated him, but one thing that he did consider is, why am I doing this? Is this the most important thing? No, the most important thing is being a father, being a husband, being a son. But this is what I do, and I'm not going to let it beat me down. I'm going to put it into perspective when I need to. And perspective is important.
Sure. Well, one last thing about Scottie here in this. Now, of course, there's all kinds of comparisons now with
we need to just touch on this
to what Tiger Woods did.
Yeah.
And of course, Tiger Woods won 18 majors. So he's got a long ways to go to be Tiger Woods. He is certainly dominating golf like no one since Tiger Woods. And I think one of the things that has made him different is that Tiger was pretty much good right out of the box. He was dominant. Scottie took a little while to get here, and it looks different. He's got the happy feet in his swing, and he's not as when you
not
watch
as demonstrative as Tiger was.
No, absolutely. Tiger looked. I can remember going to the PGA at Valhalla, and I'm standing down there on one of the greens, and it was Jack Nicklaus had just hit an honorary tee shot, right? And Nicklaus, these are the two greatest golfers ever, right? Standing right next to each other. And Nicklaus is all kind of teary-eyed because of everything that's going on in his life. And Tiger, his eyes are half lidded. He looks like he's going to slit the throat of anybody that gives him an ugly word here. And I thought, this is what Tiger is. This is who he is, locked in. He is. He's going to do whatever he has to do to win.
Yeah.
Scottie doesn't look like that. Doesn't act like that. So it's 15 majors for Tiger, by the way, and 18 for Jack. He never did catch up. Jack Nicklaus.
Listen, I just think that we went through this when back in the days when Luka was still a Maverick in the early days, and we've gone through this with others. I hate the comparison of a player, any sport, has a dominant year or two, immediately becoming compared to the greatest of all time.
Well, I mean, we're talking about though at ages. This is
it's
what
just
Tiger had done by this age. This is what Scottie's done by this age. No one's saying that he's better than Tiger Woods. We're just saying that who knows what is out there for this guy who over the last 2 years has shown a really
we all
dominant
have that
streak.
tendency, right, to look at, okay, who's the next Tiger Woods, because we want to
Sure.
relive that era of greatness, and we did that with Nicklaus, and then it was Tiger. At one point in time, was it going to be David Duval? Was it going to be Phil Mickelson? Blah 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 blah, and it ended up being Tiger. I wish we could just more appreciate the accomplishments of the moment, because I think we spent some time during the Jordan Spieth dominant year thinking, is Jordan Spieth going to be the next Tiger Woods? And
Well, I think it's always good to look at things historically. I don't have a problem as long as you recognize the difference in the people and the athletes themselves. I don't have a problem with it. Ultimately, Shohei Ohtani is being compared to Babe Ruth, right?
Yep.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm still sticking with Ruth just because of the way he dominated his era. But I don't have a problem with it. All right, let's move over now and talk about the WNBA All-Star Game, where Paige Beckers made a 4-point shot. I think that's something they ought to have on a regular basis, a 4-point shot. I think that'd be great.
like it.
Yeah. But the players also wore T-shirts that said, "Pay us what you owe us." It's been really interesting to note this year in the WNBA. Not only are they taking a stand on that, but they complain so much about the officiating, which I can't say that I watch it enough on a consistent basis to notice how bad it is. But it has gotten them some, they're getting something done about it. There are reviews being done now about the officiating and what it is. So this is good.
Let me say this. I have seen, and again, it's so dangerous to do this, but I have seen plenty of responses on social media about how the league is losing money and it's being subsidized by the NBA. And it's almost like, no, they don't deserve better pay. And I don't know why fans would ever take that stand. I really don't. I know that I made some comments related to how fans view things when NFL players get paid a lot of money. But that's always an ownership decision. And my point here is the NBA would not be heavily invested in the WNBA if it didn't believe that it was a moneymaker and didn't believe it was valuable. The league would not be expanding like it is if it was not valuable. Pro sports owners do not get into the ownership business and lose money. Okay. These are absolutes. And so, is there a collective bargaining discrepancy in the WNBA? Yeah. Are they going to reap the same kind of revenues as NBA players? Probably not, because there is a greater source of revenue in the NBA. But I don't think that there's anything wrong with the WNBA players taking a stand and saying, we need better compensation.
Well, look, here's the thing. You can't compare if the talk is, though, look at how much the NBA players are making. You can't make a comparison because
Right.
it is that revenues are so vastly different. But you can certainly pay these women more than what they're making. I mean, some of these salaries are ridiculous. It's like, I don't know. It's like they're working in a gas station or something. It's like, I mean, really, this is what you're going to pay these women? And some of them are having to go play in Europe just to make ends meet as basketball players. So,
and they're making more money in Europe.
Yes, and that's ridiculous. Yes, they do need to make more money, and it's not going to hurt anybody to pay them more money. If you could, there's all kinds of ways they can carve that out and make it better, and we'll see what happens.
I just want to say this with complete silence around me one more time for people. Professional sports owners do not lose money. Okay? Don't worry about the professional sports owner.
Well, they may lose money on an annual basis, but they're not going to lose money because when they sell the team or whatever it is, they make lots of money.
They don't lose money.
It's a great investment to own a sports team.
Their franchises may lose money over the course of the year. They don't lose money.
No, they don't. All right, that's going to do it for our podcast this week. We thank you for coming out and listening to us. We'll be back next week, and we'll be closer to the trade deadline then, and probably maybe even have an idea of what the Rangers might do at that point. Evan, just real quickly, you don't think that Chris Young would do anything before our next podcast, do you?
He might. I mean, I will say this, that, if CY finds a deal that he wants to make, he's not going to wait around to try and quote-unquote win the deal. He feels like the value that might represent 1 or 2 games right now is more important than quote-unquote winning the deal on July 31st. So if there's an opportunity to make a deal, I think he will. I just think there's a number of closers out there, and people may all be waiting to see who makes the first move there.
All right. So that'll do it. From everybody in here to everybody out there, thanks, and we'll see you next time.